So when we have conversations around the pastoral shortage in the LCMS, those conversations may assume one thing, that we all agree we need more pastors. But do we? Because there's a number of people on the other side who say we don't need more, we have more than enough. And so who's right, and how can two people be looking at the same thing in such different ways? And maybe for you watching, this isn't theoretical. Maybe your own church is in a vacancy. Maybe your pastor's exhausted, or you're wondering who will lead my kids and grandkids in the faith years from now. This is personal for a lot of us. I've come to believe there's a deeper underlying question that helps us understand the two perspectives on whether we really need more pastors. And that's what we'll explore. But first, I need to issue a public apology. So before I launch into this really important question, if we need more pastors, I want to pause and make a public apology. In my zeal to help move our church body forward and open up honest conversations, I've recently said a couple things that were inaccurate or misleading. And these videos are unfolding in real time, and sometimes I speak before I've fully verified a detail, and that's on me. And I want to correct two things directly, both involving the Concordia Seminary St. Louis admissions department. First, in a previous video, I said there were 40 SMP applicants and only 12 were accepted. I was advised that language was misleading, and they were right. While there may have been around 40 initial inquiries, not all were completed applications, not all passed entrance exams, and not all reached the final stages of the process. Just like any university. The actual number of fully completed and accepted applications was 19, and 12 entered one cohort, 6 gets in the next, and 1 was actually placed in a previous cohort. I'm sorry for presenting that information in a way that lacked clarity, and I'm grateful for the seminary staff who reached out to me with transparency and grace. Second, I shared a story from a circuit meeting about an under 40 SMP applicant who supposedly hadn't heard from the seminary for months. I've since learned the admission team had been in communication with the applicant. They just weren't in communication with the pastor or congregation asking on his behalf. And for privacy reasons, they speak directly to applicants, not third parties. My statement implied otherwise, and that was wrong, and I've apologized privately and wanted to do so publicly here as well. I am sorry. And as I try to shine more light on difficult conversations, I don't want to generate heat. I want to be accurate, charitable, and fair. As my friend Matt Popovich says, I'm trying to hold loosely to the things I say and learn as I go. And so thank you for the patience. And thank you to the seminary for their grace. And here's what I did learn, which honestly encouraged me. The admissions team follows up with every applicant, even incomplete ones. And they pray for each of them. That gives me hope, as does being able to have fair, grace-filled conversations around important topics. And I hope more conversations like that can happen in our synod, conversations like the one at hand today. So in our Red Letter Living survey of over 1,000 pastors, church workers, and lay leaders in the LCMS, it was extremely clear that pastoral formation and the shortage are among the top challenges that was voiced. And in the past couple of months, many people, including myself, feel like decisions have been made to limit pathways in what many already believed were too restricted and not working in our current day. There is little confidence in our current routes. That's what the voices are saying. In fact, you can see there is more confidence in the SMP program, the very one that was just radically changed, than in the current residential program. Many are doubting that our current pathways will produce the kind and the quantity of pastors that we need. And a strong majority of voices indicated we'd like to see an online Masters of Divinity. Finding and forming future pastors was ranked the 3rd highest urgent challenge among modern issues. But when people were given space to elaborate, AI summarized the responses and listed it as the top challenge voiced. And again, if you're watching this, maybe this hits close to home. Maybe you've worried about who will shepherd your congregation in 5 or 10 years, or maybe you're simply trying to understand the bigger picture, which I think all of us are. There are thousands of LCMS leaders deeply concerned about vacancies, retirements that are coming, and the aging of our clergy. But there is another group of voices saying something very different, saying, I'm not actually sure we need more pastors. Our church body is shrinking. Why would we increase the number of shepherds when there are fewer sheep? We should focus on consolidating what we have, not expanding. I had a respected lay leader and seminary board member, Tim Wood, say some of these things on my podcast recently. And I believe their perspective deserves to be heard and explored and not dismissed. And so the question is, do we actually need more pastors? So I love to look at things objectively when a lot of us have subjective opinions. And so right now, there are currently about 10%, about 600 LCMS churches in vacancy. And while seminary enrollment is up from a year ago, praise God, it's not keeping pace with the coming retirements. In the Set Apart to Serve FAQs, a wonderful initiative to raise up future LCMS leaders, it says the LCMS may decline from 6,000 to 3,000 pastors over the next 15 years. That same study anticipates a 50 to 70% decrease in commissioned workers as well. And so if those numbers hold, nearly half our congregations could be in vacancy at the same time. These numbers are sobering because individuals suffer when pastors are unavailable to deliver word and sacrament ministry. Talk to call committees, district presidents, or congregations in long vacancies, and the message is incredibly consistent. We need more pastors. We need them yesterday. It is challenging in our system to get a new pastor. Many congregations wait months, even years. A year ago, we merged with a congregation that didn't want to try calling again because the last time it took 11 call attempts over years, only to have that pastor stay for just 3 years. But that is only one side of the conversation. There's another side. I've found voices that are public, that are real, that are saying things like, we don't need more pastors. Our church body is shrinking. Let's consolidate, merge congregations. If we worshiped 1.1 million a quarter of a century ago, and now 450,000, then 300 pastors ought to be plenty. We can use more dual parishes, retired guys can fill in. And these aren't cynical voices. They're faithful leaders that are looking at real conditions of declining membership and fewer people coming and increasing bivocational setups and structural realities that have changed over 50 or even the last 25 years. And so they're asking the logical question. If the LCMS continues shrinking, why would we raise more pastors that the system cannot sustain? It's a fair question, a serious question, and a question of stewardship, one worth wrestling with. But it reveals something deeper. For years, the LCMS has framed this, I believe, too much around a defensive mindset. Do we need more pastors to maintain what we already have? Here's the truth. If maintenance is the goal, I think you can make a solid case. We have plenty of pastors. We can reorganize, we can consolidate, we can share pastors, we can manage decline, we can kind of just go as is. Many denominations do that, but we are not many denominations. We are the Lutheran Church Missouri Synod, a church body that historically has been shaped so the gospel could go forth. As Paul writes in Romans 10, how are they to believe in him of whom they have never heard? And how are they to hear without someone preaching? We were not here to manage decline. We were not commissioned to preserve institutions. We were commissioned to proclaim the gospel. And when that happens, churches get planted, schools take shape, ministries form, mission projects ignite, nonprofits are born, and disciples are made across every sector. And that changes the question entirely. Instead of asking, do we need more pastors to support the structures of the past or present day, we ought to be asking the question, I believe, and many believe, of do we want to be a church body that maintains, or a church body that reaches new people that we're not currently reaching? Because if that is our desire, if we believe the gospel is still for our neighborhoods, our cities, the next generation, then of course we need more pastors, not fewer, far more. A defensive church body might not need more pastors, but a gospel-centered, mission-focused, justification by grace through faith church body absolutely does. And that brings us to the heart of the issue. What kind of LCMS do you want to be? What kind of LCMS do you want your kids and your grandkids to inherit? If we want to be a church that simply protects what we have, then yeah, maybe the current number of pastors and the way we're doing it might be enough. But if we want to plant new ministries, reach unchurched people, engage communities, send workers into new fields, raise up leaders for the next generation, then raising up pastors is not optional, it's essential. No matter where you land, here's a practical step for anyone watching. If you want more pastors in the LCMS, the first place to start is simple. Encourage somebody. Speak a word of calling into the life of a young adult, a retiree, or a second career person. Your voice might be the nudge God uses. So yes, the LCMS needs more pastors if we're not thinking about institutional survival, but rather being champions of the gospel going forth. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Maybe I've missed something. Maybe you see another angle. Feel free to write about it in the comments, because this whole conversation is not about numbers. It's about making decisions today that shape the synod that we can become tomorrow. And I want to walk stronger and better together in the future. Hey, one last quick thing. I will be, as with many others, in Las Vegas for the Koinonia Gathering, January 7th and 8th. This is a place where we're coming together to talk more about pastoral formation. According to the last numbers I've seen, there are slots for 100 people that believe residential formation should continue, and 100 slots that really want to push more for online formation. The majority of people that are attending are those who are thinking online formation. So friends, we need people that think on the other side, that think about residential formation. We need your voice. We need you there. If we want to have conversations and truly walk together, we've got to come together to the tables and figure out this thing. So I would encourage you to join in the Koinonia Gathering. I'll drop the link in the comments below. God bless you, and thank you so much for watching. If you like this, subscribe. We want to continue to create more videos that help you become the church and the leader that God has called you to be. God bless you.